Today I am here with Lynn Graft, Storytelling for Entrepreneurs, and we are going to teach you guys how to shape your story as an entrepreneur so that you can share it in podcast, on stage, and in your videos. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Amanda Horvath, and I'm all about helping business owners and entrepreneurs leverage the power of video without breaking the bank or taking up tons of their time. So if you're looking to use video in your strategy this year, then be sure to subscribe and click the bell to be notified every time I release a new video. So today we're trying something a little bit different, and we actually have 3 cameras going. We have 2 GH5s as well as an iPhone 11 Pro because I just got it. He has one too. Yeah. It's epic, and we're gonna test so that you guys can see what it actually looks like. So drop a comment below letting me know what you think. So the reason that this came up is because we have known each other for
a
couple years now. Yeah, 2 or 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
I've actually been against what he preaches, which is kind of fun in that I have taken the Donald Miller approach of you don't want to share your story because really no one cares about you until they know that you can help them. But as I've continued to get into more speaking gigs and more podcasts, what I've learned is that it's actually really important to be able to shape your story. So this is a weakness of mine, to actually reflect on my past and develop a story from there that it will resonate with other people. So that's how this came about. So today, we're going to be diving into that. But before we do, go ahead and introduce yourself and how you kind of got into this whole thing.
So I am a video producer for the last 15 years, and I typically am filming entrepreneurs for a living. So I'm capturing their story either for television or for a video for their website, for maybe it might be a speaker reel in some instances, a corporate promotional video. Generally speaking, story-based videos is my expertise and my passion. That's where I really love to pour myself into. And I like to capture these stories because I've found from a variety of years of doing this and audiences sharing them with is that story is one of the best ways to connect with people. It's a way to bypass these obstacles of too much information coming at us, or we've got these barriers that we keep in front of us so that we can kind of focus on our own needs. But when you share a compelling story that reaches them on an emotional level, there is very few things that compare with the effectiveness of getting them, influencing them towards getting them to do something you want them to do, whether that could be buy your products or you want them to give you money if you're looking for investment. Or it could be, for instance, for getting press, getting someone to write about you. Story is one of the most powerful forces on earth. So over the last 15 years, I've filmed about probably a total of 1,000 entrepreneurs, and 500 of them have been big name entrepreneurs because I was doing content for CNBC or for media outlets as Entrepreneur Magazine or Microsoft or Dell, doing content for them. So the really big name folks. And then I've made about 800, probably 1,000 videos now in that time frame. So I started as an engineer, quit, became a ski instructor, went to grad school, got my MBA, became a startup founder. Actually, I joined a startup, did that for 2 years, and then my best friend approached me and says, hey, I want to do this high-tech startup. I did my first startup.
So is this your story?
This is a little bit, just a little bit of that. I went on this journey of being an entrepreneur and raising capital and getting press and failing miserable and then succeeding and failing again. And I got access to a lot of really successful entrepreneurs helping me, getting guidance and mentorship and advisement. And then when I decided to leave kind of the startup world, do something different, I got into filming entrepreneurs because I wanted to capture their stories and share them with the world.
I love that. When I first came across your website, actually, like my brother had known you for a little bit.
That's right.
And I was told about your website. I went to go look it up. And I saw like the list of people that you'd worked with. I was like, oh my God, this is like totally what I want to do. Blank. Like I got so excited because it was like, wow, there's someone else out there that's also doing similar things to me, specifically working with business owners and entrepreneurs. Because so many people, they want to be filmmakers. They're more focused on that. And this side of things with business owners and entrepreneurs is kind of like, right? You know what I'm talking about. There's so many people out there.
Yeah.
So I love what you're doing. So how did this framework come about in teaching people how to tell their story?
It's part of what when I was getting the early start in terms of trying to figure out this whole video process. Now, I don't edit or I don't shoot. I'm different from you. I hire all
And
that.
you still don't.
Yeah, I still don't for all these years. I might do some self things for my own video series, but for the most part, 95% of the time, I hire all of it out except for the writing, the directing, the production. And because I hire people like you, very talented folks such as her. But still, I had to prepare either to ask the questions as a producer director, or if there was an on-camera host, I had to give that person the questions and the background research so they could ask the questions. And when you are given time with a high-profile entrepreneur, such as the founder of Dropbox or the founder of Dell or Whole Foods, they're going to tell you, oh, you've got 28 minutes, or they're going to tell you you've got 60 minutes. So you have a very limited time frame to get the sound bites you need for whatever that is that you're making. So because of that, you have to be just exceptionally prepared for that process. And I discovered...
And that includes setup time, or that's like just
No,
the interview time?
typically you're given time to set up.
Got
hopefully,
it.
not
so you
always.
have an hour to like
Typically,
interview them.
If they say you've got 28 minutes, that's usually their EA saying that, or their press comms person. And they really mean you've got 28 minutes. And they will sit there watching you and says, okay, we got to go.
High pressure, folks, high pressure.
So what you just really want to be super prepared. So my process was I would do massive amounts of research on them. I'd get online and I'd just start doing just state on Google searches, and then I'd watch videos of them. I'd look at interviews they've done. I'd transcribe some of the videos that they had. So I'd have written versions of everything.
You
and
personally, or you would like use a service?
Always
Wow.
do everything. Well, not the transcription. The transcriptions are outsourced, but everything else, I would collect the information and I build these 90-page dossiers. And I'd put them all in a Word document and I'd organize them in some type of fashion. But in the initial stages, it was just like copy, paste, grab the transcript, copy, paste, put it in there, grab it all together. And then I would start reading it and highlighting it in Word as I'm going along. And this is the process I got to kind of do what you're saying. So after I was done with that, I would delete all the non-highlighted things. So that way, only the most important parts were taken from that thing. And then the second pass, I would start underlining, or I'd like bold it, or all caps it, whatever it was. So I'd take 90 pages, would condense down to about 40 pages, and I can condense that down to 20 pages. And in
case you guys are curious why it's so expensive to do video, it's because all this goes into the back end of it. It's like,
this is the stuff that nobody knows about.
It's just an hour interview, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's going to be easy. It's really that much. So,
and if you think about it, if you only have 28 minutes or an hour with someone, and you're trying to get some really specific sound bites, you generally what you're learning ahead of time is you're really learning their story. You already have a pretty good idea of the story that you want them to say. So the trick is formulating questions to elicit the responses that you need to make the story-based video that you're wanting. That's
and this is a great takeaway for anyone that's doing video. Like, I do the same thing with brand videos. Like, when you're filming a video, you don't want the filming to be the exploratory process. You want that to be actually capturing the story that you already know you want to share. So, which is coming back full circle here, it's important to know your story and what the key points are. Okay, so
very much so, very much so. So from that standpoint, you're trying to formulate the questions that you're wanting to ask, and because you know the responses, the answers you want them to give you. Now, of course, you're going to dovetail and go down particular rabbit holes where you're like, you just found out, oh, really? Tell me about that. You didn't know anything about that.
That's where the gold comes from.
Yeah,
but the preparation helps.
Preparation, because generally speaking, you know the story you want to tell, so you're trying to get the answers to tell the right story. So that process, and it was a brutal, because I wasn't trained in film. I didn't go to school for this. I was an engineer that was really inspired by inspiring stories. So I had to learn it on the fly, and this was just my method. And it enabled me to come up with a framework and a process that I now teach entrepreneurs how to create and tell their story using a similar type process. It's not necessarily any easier, but it's almost a process that's required if you want to have a great, compelling story. Getting a good story quickly, we can do. In a matter of 10 minutes, you can tell me your background. Okay, bam, 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 great, I got it, beginning, middle, end, let's go. But if I really want to know if I want to know about you so that I can create a compelling story, I need to know those gems that nobody else does. Or I need to be able to choreograph this narrative that's, I plant a seed early on, and then later on, like, oh, so that's why you're doing it. This is your why, or this is the aha moment that you had, or this is something that happened to you in childhood that led to what you're doing right now, because I was able to learn about all your background through that process. And that's that self-discovery process I suggest all entrepreneurs do in order to create a great, compelling story.
So step one, he has a questionnaire on his website that will break down, like getting you starting to flow about your story and all the different parts, starting whenever it starts, like super early on. Like I think I started mine in high school was when I started maybe telling me. Yeah. Or no, actually, I think you even start way earlier than that. But
I start, actually, it's broken into 3 parts, basically. First part is growing up.
There you go.
And I literally start with, just to give you a starting point, when were you born and where were you born, okay? And then you just kind of break it down from childhood, and then you go into school. So that's part 1. Mm-hmm. Part 2 is your professional history. What have you done before the startup that you have right now? And then part 3 is right at the startup phase, right? We're doing right before you did the startup, right when you started, and then what happened right after that. So those 3 kind of phases, if you will, of your life are what I recommend people walk through so that you know what to start filling in the information. It's called the chronohistory, is the process that I have. And then there's sections broken out according to those phases and questions to help you fill out each particular section within the phase.
Awesome. So then you do that, and then you go through, highlight the things that stand out. That's when you start kind of the bolding process and like looking at what stands out. Is that correct?
So whatever works for you as an individual. Some people love to get the big whiteboard type breakdown because they're very visual. They want to see it on the wall, and that can be done with, those big Post-it type things. Other people like to use Post-it notes. And I've done this in a working session. They'll just start covering a wall with all these Post-it notes, and then use yellows and greens depending on something personal, something professional, something that happened to do with them or their job or everything else. So they color code it. I typically go towards a Word document because that's how I have done it for years and years and years. And then I'll use yellows to highlight things. I might use the bolding and everything else. So that's kind of how the process starts. Whatever document works for you. Some people do it in PowerPoint as well because they like photos and pictures and things like that. And
sounds like a lot of work. A lot of time. Yeah, all of this is a lot of time.
It is. Some people are really fascinated, but the general purpose is you're looking to create this inventory of assets that have rich elements that are going to help you create your own story or have someone else help you create their own story. So right now I have 2 clients that I'm doing this exact process through. One person took 5 weeks to build that chronohistory. Another person took a week. It was the fastest ever since I've been doing this for 6 or 7 years. He came back part 1 in 1 day, part 2 in 2 days, part 3 in 5 days later, only because he had meetings in that. I was like, this guy's intense. But either way, we've got this great inventory that they'll be able to use for the rest of their business life.
Right. Your past doesn't change.
It isn't. It's these point in time. So keep in mind, you're not trying to just give me a biography of everything that has happened to you. You're trying to pick things that have a direct relationship to the current business that you're doing. So as you look back at the chronological history of your life, you're saying, oh, well, of course it had an impact on me. For me, my mom was an amazing storyteller. My sisters, to this day, when we get together, we tell stories. So that's a big part of my own personal stories, being around great storytellers and just loving to hear them and be around them and then emulate them because it's inspiring for me. So you're trying to find those things in your past that relate to what you're doing right now so that you can find the why, the what, and the how of all these things.
I love it. So the reason that this came up is because I've been struggling with my story, right? I kind of mentioned that before. And so instead of just talking abstractly about all of this, we are going to get real messy here and actually dive into my story. And I've just been kind of all over the place, to be honest. And I actually kind of love what you said about people taking like a week was fast. I ran through your chronohistory in a day before I needed to prep for my social media examiner episode, which was the worst time to do this because it just made me aware of how much history I have. And so when he was like, what's your story? I was like, oh, crap, like where do I go? And I was all like anxious, and you guys can check out that video here in the cards if you would like to see the background of that interview. But anyway, so what would be the best method for going about this? Obviously, we can't dive deep into it, but just to kind of give an example of the maybe high key points of my story and how to kind of navigate through that to come up with something that is a tangible takeaway.
Got it.
Even if not perfect by the end of this, right?
So before we dive into that, I do want to give you the perspective of why I believe it's really important to go into your own personal story, contrary to what other folks in the industry that teach storytelling tell you not to. They tell you make the customer the hero of the story.
Let's definitely dive into this.
Develop a protagonist and an antagonist, or do the hero's journey, or all these other things. And I'm like, no, I throw all that out the window. And the reason was I was never trained like that. So I didn't know of those things as I was developing my own process, my methodology, and things like that. So I didn't know about them. And then when I started teaching other people, I started to dive and learn into those things. I'm like, they just don't work.
And they do work.
Okay.
I will say they do work. Just to have a little controversy here.
Okay, good. But let me explain to you some of the reasons why they are challenging for entrepreneurs.
Yes.
First and foremost, you are right to a large degree that nobody cares about your story. All they care about what your product or service can do for them. Inherently, that is very true. At the end of the day, we are all selfish beings, as hard as that is for us to admit, we are. We only care about, I'm meeting with her because I think this might help me. She's having me on her show because
I don't have a video for Tuesday. Let's be real.
And it's going to help her. So
we wanted to do it.
We are. We are selfish. At the end of the day, people are that way. Nothing wrong with that. To survive, you kind of need to be that way. But anyways, one of the reasons is that it is so competitive out there. There are so many people that do what we do for a living, videographers, or if you're making a healthy snack, or if you're making apparel. The competitive landscape is massive, and there's so much noise out there. So they're all pretty much the same, but there's one thing that is distinctly different that not any other entity has the entire planet, and that is your history. Nobody has the experiences that you have, the knowledge that you have, the connections and that collective network that you have that makes you distinct and different from every other person on the planet. So when you start getting into product and marketing and making the customer the hero, you start blurring those lines and you become like everybody else. Nobody in the entire planet has filmed 1,000 entrepreneurs as I have. That was a ski instructor, that was raised by people that were great storytellers, that has all these experiences that make me unique. First and foremost, that is the most important way to distinguish yourself from everybody else out there, by giving a compelling story. Second reason is that we know our own self really well. So if you're talking about yourself, you're speaking from a place that is truth. You cannot, my dog who just recently passed away was one of the most important things in my life. You cannot argue with that. I don't care who you are, what you say, you cannot argue with that emotional fact that I have. And he's a big part of my life. And because of that, when I start talking about myself and the things I'm proud of and passionate, I look for it in the eyes on camera. Their eyes light up, they start getting watery, they just getting proud. You cannot replicate that when you're talking about a customer testimonial or this heroes thing. I kind of throw all out the window. I'm very proud of what I've done. I know I can help you tell an amazing story if you give me the time and energy and passion to make it come alive. So those are two really big reasons I'm such a proponent of diving into your own personal story so that you can make a personal connection. Now the trick is, as you share your story, to make an immediate connection with the audience so they do care about your story. That's the key. They don't care about you until they think it's going to help them. So if you can share your personal story in such a way that it's resonating with something that's important to them or someone they care about, then you're kind of hitting two birds with one stone. You've got them. Now you got to keep them, reeling them in, and make them show how you can help them by sharing your personal story that is going to help them move the ball forward. Okay, sorry. I got off on that little soapbox.
No, I'm really glad that you did, because this is like you're bringing up really great points. And I, like I've mentioned before, have totally gone all the way on the other route. And while I do capture people's stories, it's interesting because we have done the same thing in a different way, right? Like in terms of interviewing business owners, telling their stories and capturing all that. It's just been like kind of a different approach to it. So when I am creating a brand video, I do we dive deep into who they are, what they're doing, why they're doing it, but then approach it from the mask of, okay, how do we tell this story from the standpoint of the audience being the hero of the story, right? And so I do enjoy this kind of switch, and I love constantly just questioning the things that are going on in my mind, which is why this is an epic conversation for us to have. So with that, how should we go about this? Should I kind of lay out high points to kind of give the audience where we're starting? Or what would be the best way?
Well, let's take a general approach so that anybody who's going to go down this path can look at it. So let's say, for instance, you've done your chronological history and you spent a week, at least, not a day, but you would spend a week so that you could think through and remember and then ask questions and go down that memory lane and fill out a nice chrono history document. And it should be, 10 to 20 pages. It really should be. As you look at growing up with your educational period and then your professional history and then bringing everything, you should have 10 to 20 pages at least. Then I would recommend get outside help, but either way, you take all that information and then you look at it from the perspective and highlighting the most important things. So you go through that exact same process. So once you have that, let's say you had 20 pages and then you cut it down. Let's say you had 30 pages and you cut it down to 20 pages. And I have a general rule of thumb that I like to use, and it's typically derived from what I've done in the past. And it goes 39-6-3. So I start with 30 pages of the most important things that I took from a 90-page document. It's 30 pages. And then I take out the 9 most important elements that I could find. And from that, I go from 9 to 6, and then from 6 to 3. And the reason I do that is that if I focus on 3 things that I want to tell you, I can probably do that in 3 minutes. 3 really important minutes. 30 is 30 minutes, 3 is 3 minutes. And then you can work the math from there. 39-6-3. You're typically always going to be given an opportunity to tell a 2 or 3 minute story, hence the 3. It's very common nowadays to have 5 minutes to tell your story. That's kind of where the 6 comes in. 10 minutes is probably the most common on a longer format story that you're going to have. 30 is only when you're given speeches, typically. So you need to have a longer format ready. So I like that formula in terms of numbers, because it's all divided by 3, 30, 9, 6, 3. Then it breaks into beginning, middle, end. 3 points, beginning, middle, end. Same thing with 9, 3 parts in the beginning, 3 parts in the middle, and 3 parts in the end. And then for 30, it's 10 minutes on each section, things along those lines. So I like.
And it's always the same points. You're just kind of building out.
It depends. So if you think about your story, every story should be able to be broken down into 3 parts, the beginning, middle, end. At the end of the day, that's what you should be shooting for from a narrative standpoint, from a storytelling standpoint. You want a beginning, you want a middle, and you want an end. What you put in each of those 3 sections is going to be dictated by how much time you have, the audience that you're talking with, the medium that you have as well. And then what is it that you're trying to achieve by a particular audience? So you mentioned earlier is that you're trying to be a hero, make the audience a hero. There's a lot of times as an entrepreneur, you don't even know who your audience is. You're asked to be on a podcast, you're getting ready to go talking to someone, you get asked to introduce yourself, you had a networking session, you know anybody in the room, and you're like, so in that instance...
That's a great point, because that can create blocks.
Generally speaking, there is a lot of times where you don't know the audience and you don't have context to tell your story. So it's always best to revert back to, this is the story I want to tell. This is what makes my story important to me, and I hope it's important to you. Now, a good thing here, this is where entrepreneurs really, really have a tough time. We want to please everyone. We want our story to resonate with everyone. We want everyone to buy our product and service. And it just doesn't work like that. It doesn't matter who you are, what you sell, what industry you're in. No one is going to like everything you do. In fact, it's even better, and you're going to know this better from what you've learned on YouTube, watching some of the things. It's better to find out people who don't like what you're doing. To segment that and say, hey, you don't like my story? No problem. She loves my story. I want to go talk to her. You have finite time. So you want to direct your story and cultivate a great, compelling story that's going to resonate with the audience you're going to be speaking with. So with that said, if you don't know who your audience is, tell the story you want to tell. and kind of go from that perspective. So if we bring that back, we had that 30, 9, 6, 3. So you just went through and you made your 20 pages of chrono history, then you highlight it and you got it down to, let's say, 10 pages now. And you're like, okay, I'm going to go through it again, and I'm going to take out the best of those 10 pages, and I'm going to make 6 pages or whatever it is, or 3 pages. It doesn't matter. So you're just kind of whittling it down, and you're always trying to take the most important, the most compelling, and the most, I would say, elements that are the most resonant with hopefully the audiences that you want to go after. So you want people that, for your audience, the people that are watching this, they're people that want to DIY video to a large degree, right? So you're trying to share information and bring guests on that can help elevate their knowledge about them or inspire it to do more so. So you're trying to think of those things as you tell your best story. So if we bring that back to what you're saying, let's say, for instance, we got it down to 3 pages. That's your story that you have. So for you, and when you're creating your story, what's a challenge you're facing now that is frustrating you? And that could be too much information, which we kind of already covered, way to differ that down, or knowing what to kick out or keep in.
So one of the challenges that I've been facing really this entire year is that I stopped doing production in April, which has been my main stream of income for the past 5 years, which has been kind of a crazy experience to stop doing that. And now as I go into the new year, I'm pivoting more towards kind of a different model in terms of having courses and speaking and workshops and more like consulting type work, as well as potentially leaving the door open for stuff that comes down the line as well. So one of the things that I've kind of been struggling with when actually telling my story is there's 2 sides of me. There's the professional side of working with, all these entrepreneurs, all these business owners, and developing what works in video and gathering all this information. Then there's the story of me stepping in front of the camera for the first time. So it's like, do I start with me cracking the code on my personal content strategy and overcoming those blocks and how I've been able to in life make changes to make this possible for me? Or am I more so telling the story of my professional career of being a video marketing strategist, working with all these people, blah, blah, blah?
Got it. So basically, when you're looking at the inventory of potential story assets that you could choose from that we just kind of developed, right? What you're looking, it enables you to do a couple things. Is one, you've got options to choose from. And what you're doing in this case for the next year is you're looking for what's the ones that are going to resonate the most, that are really going to get your audience going, yeah, she understands me, she gets me, and she can help me. So to answer your question, you kind of got to do a little bit of both. Because if someone's watching you for the first time, they're like, why should I care about this person? So you have to give context to your expertise. If that is not the main point, if you're not trying to sell, yes, I'm a video producer and I've done all this stuff. If you're not trying to sell that, you got to really minimize that time. Keep it short and sweet. Give them some numbers. I love throwing numbers out there. How many videos have you done? How many entrepreneurs that you've helped? What are some ROI from the projects you can got? And you can kind of sprinkle those in there. But ultimately, with this new direction that you're taking, you want to hit those people pretty quickly with how you can help them. So you give them content expertise that shows that you are a seasoned veteran with knowledge and connections, and you've been there and done that. So you want to weave that in there, but that's not the main point. The main point is making that emotional connection. At the end of the day, a story, as you know, is getting people to feel something. So the goal of the story is I want you to feel a certain way so that you understand me and I can influence you to do something. So your business need is for them to buy your course, or for them to come to your workshop, or for them to watch your video. That's the business need. You don't tell them necessarily to come buy your course. You do. But it's better that as they're watching their video, like, she gets me, she can help me. They're feeling what you're feeling because you've been through that process. So going back to your original question, I think the narrative that you want to share is everything that you face so that they can relate to you. But you have to, in the early stages, give them context so they know why they should be watching Amanda Horvath. Otherwise, like, there's a zillion options they have on YouTube to choose from. Why should I care what you're saying? I mean, your audience probably already knows you, but you're now growing every month and you have new people coming all the time. So you have to be under the assumption that every person is a new viewer, because you want to go from 3,000 followers to 300,000. And the way to do that is you're constantly reintroducing context about your expertise and things like that.
I think that the best way on YouTube to do that is through your channel trailer, which is the video that pre-rolls on your channel when you first land on the channel. So say someone comes across my videos in search, they click back and it goes to that page. So I've developed a couple of different versions already. And now it's kind of like I wanted to do this and kind of make sure that the direction that I'm going, that the story that I'm telling actually is in alignment. So just to kind of wrap this all up, because I know we're kind of getting a little bit long-winded here, I think what I love about this whole scenario is that I did to him what a lot of people have done to me, of like, hey, can you solve my problem really quickly? And you can't. Like, this takes work, this takes self-reflection, this takes me sitting down, typing out 90 pages,
Not
right?
90,
Or however long,
yeah.
30 pages, and then weeding it down more and more. So let's assume that someone watches this video. They're like, okay, this is epic. I need to be doing this work too. Then how could someone work with you moving forward? Or what resources can they use to kind of get more into your circle, since you're the expertise on this?
God, I'll give you two options. Basically, go to storytellingforentrepreneurs.com, and on there is a download where you can get 7 steps to help you create a great story. And then to get that specific chrono history document that I'm referencing, you're going to put a link down below so they know exactly what link that's. I think it changes. I'm not exactly sure what that is. So they can get that exact document. And then on storytellingforentrepreneurs.com is a link to my book called Start With Story. You can also, I recommend buying the book. It's a quick read. It's based on all the knowledge I've learned in the last 15 years. And I share you basically, here's a concept, here's how to do it, and here's examples from entrepreneurs I've filmed, very successful people, and how they took that particular concept or idea or strategy and created a great story from that process. Now, one thing I'll mention to you is that we talked about this even before the cameras got on, is that you can create a good story fairly quickly. We can sit here in 10 minutes and everything, but to really find those gems and those nuggets and those diamonds in the rough, you have to do the homework, so that you can find the things that make you unique and distinct and make your story come alive and give it kind of the sizzle. Because hopefully you've got a good steak in your product or service, but you do need to add sizzle to it so it will look unique and taste better than everybody else that's out there.
Taste better. I like that. Your story will taste better.
Your story will taste better.
So go ahead and download his framework for this so that your story can taste better, folks.
Yeah, there you go.
So let me know if this was helpful to you as we're going through and working through this. Go ahead and drop a comment below, and I'd love to hear from you. And also be sure to check out his YouTube channel. He has a YouTube channel that he'll be focused on growing in 2020. So I will link to that in the description below as well. And as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.